On June 9th, Anthropic launched two new models, Fable 5 and Mythos 5. By June 12th, 3 days later, both models were gone, pulled offline not because of the technical failures, but because of safety incident, because the US government issued a legal directive ordering Anthropic to disable them. This is the first time in history that a leading AI company has taken a publicly deployed frontier model offline due to the direct government intervention. So first, what are these models and why do they matter? Anthropic has a model tier called Mythos class. Think of it as a sitting above their Opus class in capability. The first Mythos model, Mythos Preview, came out in April through something called Project Glasswing, which is a restricted program for cybersecurity professionals and critical infrastructure companies. It was never available to general public. Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are the next generation of that. They share the exact same underlying model. The difference between them is purely the safeguards. Fable 5 has a classifier, separate AI system that watch every request, and if something touches cybersecurity or model distillation, it does not answer from Fable. It falls back to Opus 4.8 instead of, and tells you what happened. Less than 5% of session trigger this. So for 90% of users, Fable 5 and Mythos 5 are identical. Mythos 5 has those same classified after forbidden partners, cyber defender, infrastructure provider, people in Project Glasswing. For them, the full model is available with no restriction. If I talk about the pricing, then it's $10 per million input tokens and $50 per million output tokens. That is double for what Opus 4.8 cost, 1 million token context window. Okay, so why does this matter? What was actually in these models that made people excited and then made the government nervous? Stride gave Fable 5 50 million line Ruby code base and asked it to do a full migration. It finished in one day. A full engineering team doing the same work by hand would have taken over 2 months. On SW8-bit Pro, Fable 5 scored 80.3, Opus was at 4.8 was 69.2%, and GPT 5.5 was 58.6%, and Gemini 3.1 Pro at 54.2%. Cursor C1, which Arthur called is state of the art on Cursor Bench, and said it opened up in a class of long horizon problems that were simply out of reach for earlier models. GitHub CPU, Mario said it handled complex long horizon coding tasks that with a new level of autonomy and reliability that exceeded previous benchmarks. Simon Williamson spent 5.5 hours with it on a launch day and ended up spending $110 worth of tokens, all from his $100 monthly subscription in one session. He said it felt like a beast. Churned through everything he threw it. He used it to build features for his own open source library and said it felt like several days' worth of work done in hours. And Rage Carpath, he called it a major version bumps, deserving step change forward, and set the benchmark show state of the art on everything by a margin, especially for the long problem solving session. Now, here is something worth understanding. The government ban was not the first controversy around this launch. Before the ban even happened, within 24 hours of launch, the community was already furious for 3 separate reasons. First, the token burn. Fable 5 countable against your user's limit. The same work drains your plan twice as fast. One test drained a $100 max subscription in under 9 minutes. Scrimba CEO per Bogan calculated publicly Fable turned 1.3 million token in 7 minutes. That is $160 per hour, equivalent to $0.333 million per year salary. Theo from T3 Chat spent over $1,000 in tokens in one day on a $200 subscription plan. Part of the reason is the system front, around 120,000 tokens loading into every single conversation. Second, silent self-censorship. Buried in Fable 5's system card, Anthropic disclosed that when the Fable detects a user is working on frontier AI research, bargaining pipelines, distributed training, ML accelerator design, it does not refuse, it does not fall back to Opus 4.8. It silently recreates its own output without telling the user anything has changed. Anthropic estimated this affects 0.03% of traffic. The research community found that number irrelevant to the principle. A Hugging Face core contributor Arthur posted, "The Anthropic, you broke our trust, and I don't think you will ever get it back." It's a huge thing to say. Mike, co-founder of Reka AI, compared it to Apple randomly rebooting your Mac if you are building competing tech. Third is mandatory 30-day data retention. All traffic on Mythos class model is subject to mandatory 30-day retention on every platform, including AWS Bedrock and Google Vertex AI. This overrode existing zero retention agreement. European companies under GDPR locked out, and healthcare firms locked out, legal firms with privileged communities locked out. Now, let's talk about the ban. The government's stated reason the jailbreak was found, especially asking the model to read a code base and fix any software vulnerabilities. Anthropic reviewed and demonstrated the vulnerabilities identified were all previously known and minor. Other publicly available models, including GPT 5.5, began find the same vulnerability without any jailbreak at all. This capability is used every day by defenders who protect critical infrastructure. Anthropic had spent thousands of hours teaming Fable before launch with the US government and UK AI Safety Institute and multiple private organizations. An external bug bounty found no universal jailbreaks in over 1,000 hours of testing. Their conclusion was if this standard was applied across the industry, it would essentially halt all new model deployment for all frontier model providers permanently. Now, the context that makes this more complicated. In February 26, the Department of Defense declared Anthropic a supply chain risk, a label historically reserved for foreign advisors. Trump posted on Truth Social calling Anthropic a left-wing nuts job. Anthropic sued a federal judge in California, ruled in Anthropic's favor. That case is still active in DC. Anthropic built the most capable model they have ever publicly released. They spent months working in the US government and safety before launch. They ran thousands of hours of red teaming. They launched with Safeguard. The community actually complained were too aggressive, and 3 days later, the government pulled it using a jailbreak demonstration showing a capability that already exists in GPT 5.5. The government was using Mythos for offensive cyber attack. That same week, they banned it for being too dangerous. And the standard they applied, if a narrow, non-universal jailbreak existed in a publicly deployed model, it must be pulled, would shut down every frontier model deployment from every company permanently, because perfect jailbreak resistance is not possible. Anthropic said this explicitly before launch. These are 2 ways to read this. One is that the government is genuinely concerned in applying a precautionary standard, even if technically inconsistent. The other is that this is about something else. A company that sued the government, that has had ongoing clashes with the DoD, that is preparing for an IPO, suddenly finding its more important new product pulled 3 days after the launch. I'm not saying I know which one it is, but I think you should know both possibilities exist. Fable 5 and Mythos 5 were the most capable models Anthropic has ever publicly released. They are gone for now. What happens next is probably the most important AI policy story of 26. See you in the next one.